What's up, everybody? Welcome. It's back. I'm back. It's Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. And we're going to be talking Texas football, Longhorn football recruiting, news in the SEC, all kinds of stuff going on. Chris Henry, the five-star receiver that wasn't a thing a week ago, really, and has been a thing for the last couple of days. He's made a decision, lots of stuff to get into. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications. If Chris Henry had picked Texas, we'd have had a Chris Henry reaction show live. So
I was going to say, yeah, would have been. We would already be going, right. You'd be jumping into something that was already happening.
So news of the day: Chris Henry stays with Ohio State in what I think is a little bit of a surprise. It's fascinating to see what the impact of Brian Hartline taking the South Florida job of all jobs.
Yeah,
completely kind of. Suddenly, everybody that was playing wide receiver at Ohio State in their recruiting class hit the pause button.
Yeah.
It made for an interesting last couple of days. Texas went in big. Like, you and I didn't do a show yesterday, so we didn't really get a chance to talk about this. But at this time yesterday, Texas, I think, still thought they had a chance. I described it as a live wire. I don't think they were ever the favorite. I think they made an NL offer that caught some attention, and I think – we saw this a year ago, Chad, with Justice Terry, that you can make an offer that is so game-changing that sometimes it just changes the game. There is an alternate reality out there, though, where Justice Terry gets an NIL offer from Texas and Georgia goes, fine, we'll match it. We'll do a little bit more. And Justice Terry ends up at Georgia. And sometimes those things happen. I think what we probably saw with Chris Henry is that Ohio State, in the name of not losing that guy and some others that peeled off, probably were very motivated to make sure they did not lose. They're going to lose Chris Henry because Brian Hartline decided to go somewhere else. And I guess you chalk that up to the game. Instead, I think they made sure it was not financially motivated. And so probably the thing that Texas had going for him the most, the opportunity to kind of turn his head with an NIL offer, ended up probably not being the thing that swayed his decision. Ultimately, he sticks with Ohio State. And I think the money kind of washed itself out, but the Chris Henry saga is over. I do think, though, it points towards a couple of things. Texas has a big appetite to go in late on Chris Henry and kind of money be damned, we'll go big or go home, I think is a statement of intent, Chad. And I wonder, does it happen if Texas is in the playoffs? Is this what it looks like when Texas is mad? Right? If Texas is playing the SEC championship game this weekend, are they messing around with Chris Henry? Or are they 9-3? They're on the outside looking in. They keep getting bad news. They want a different narrative to exist. Go get Chris Henry. Go get somebody big when the portal opens up. They don't get their guy in Chris Henry, but I wonder if this is the first sign of what we may see from Texas in the offseason.
Well, I mentioned it yesterday, trying to take advantage of the fact that you're not in the playoff. You're not in the SEC title game. You're not in the playoff. You have one game to focus on. It's a ways out. So are we going to see extra focus right now? And I also pointed out yesterday, Ketch, there are some little windows opening up this weekend off of coaching moves. LSU, Florida, Kentucky, Arkansas, Ole Miss. By my count, they all start Saturday. A 15-day window starts this weekend. There are teams that can't deal with that. Texas can. Texas can absolutely focus in on stuff like that.
And it's primarily the competition that you worry about. You know what I mean? Like, this needs to be –
absolutely.
Every once in a while in soccer, Chad, Manchester United won't make the Champions League. And it's like, oh, it's a huge, devastating deal, right? But what it does allow them to do if they're not in Europe is like once a week they play a game, as opposed to 2 or 3 times a week playing games. And it makes a difference in terms of giving yourself a competitive edge. Texas, you're right. If Texas does this thing right, they don't have this advantage next year.
Yeah, exactly. That's the ultimate goal. My first question to you on Henry is, if Texas took a big swing, did they wait until he decommitted after Hartline? Is that when they took the swing, or were they already kind of trying to take it?
No, I mean, look, they've loved Chris Henry. I think that if you were going to ask Steve Sarkisian who the number one player in the country is, regardless of position, there's a chance that Chris Henry could be the guy. I mean, I have heard all year long that Sark's got a thing for Chris Henry. But Chris Henry was pretty locked into Ohio State. It didn't seem to be about money. Texas wasn't the runner-up for Chris Henry.
Right. He had a Final Four, and they were not in there.
I think they took a big swing for the fence. I think the Brian Hartline thing and that kid hitting the pause button was okay. Well, there aren't many guys in the country that I think a couple of things about with Texas. One, who do they think could be so good that they just go YOLO with? And I think they think he's that guy. I mean, I don't know that there's a bigger compliment than you can give to a high school football player after the season that we just saw, where they're like, well, what do they do? By any means necessary. Has he played a game in college yet? Nope. I wonder how good they think he is. They're kind of telling you. And, you know, so when Jalen Lott, when it looked like Chris Henry might go to Oregon, and Jalen Lott had hit the pause button, and Jalen Lott, Texas legacy kid, the number 2 player in the state of Texas in my rankings, 5 stars. He's committed to Oregon and has been an Oregon guy for so long since he committed. There's really never been a Texas is making a move with him. And I think they thought with Jalen Lott that would happen when he I think there's some real thought that when Jalen Lott announced to Oregon that he would be a guy that Texas might go in on later in the year. Mm-hmm. That they didn't go big NIL. They didn't make their big move. Maybe they'll wait. And then I think the freshman receiving class happened. And I think they thought, we can't do this. All of these guys were 5 stars by somebody, and nobody made an impact, and they all cost, they were not all cheap. And I think they looked at a Chris Henry and a Jalen Lott, and they're in different stratospheres. And I think when we talk about the difference between a 6-star and a 5-star, or the difference between Decoria Moore might be a 6-star, but Jamie French or Khalid Lockett is a 5-star, but that's a notch below the other 5-star. I think that's the kind of conversation that we're talking about. I think they view Chris Henry as a 6-star. And I don't think there are many guys like that grow on trees. And so I think they made a swing with him that they moved on. But Chad, what this does is it changes the answer that Sarkisian gave us on Wednesday when he talked about the positions that they needed in the portal.
You never said receiver.
He did not, because I think why would you say that if you're trying to make a big closing pitch to Chris Henry? Yeah. You want to tell that guy you're the missing piece. The one thing you don't want to do is show up and go, yeah. I think the appetite to spend on that guy, I think probably is an indication that they do think that they need a playmaker at wide receiver. And when the portal opens, I think everybody's eyes should be open. I think there should be a little bit of bated breath. If they're willing to do that with Chris Henry, knowing that next season wouldn't even be his best season. You know, think about Chris Henry, you'd be getting him for 3 seasons. In theory, Arch Manning's way gone, but Dia Bell is like right in the middle of his potential prime with a Chris Henry. Next year, and what they do in the portal may very well be about next season with Arch and Arch only, although they did show us in April that when Texas feels like they do this right, guys like Jack Injuries and Murad Watson and Emmett Mosley enter the portal, and they've already got decisions made. And it will be interesting to see when the portal opens up. Is there a receiver who, as soon as he's in the portal, is like, yep, I'm committed to Texas.
Yep. The chat knows.
I'm even taking a visit. Doesn't matter. I'm going to Texas.
The chat knows who they want. I've seen his name already 3 times today in the chat. I don't know if Cam Coleman's going to be one of those guys. But
you know what Cam Coleman has? Leverage.
Yeah. And Auburn, by the way, if I'm doing the math right, I think Auburn would have, because they announced their new coach right about that same time, right, as everybody else. So I think that window is going to open at about the same time. So we'll see if Texas is paying attention. So Catch, the feeling about Henry, does it go back to you to Decoria Moore? Like deep down, is it because they wish they'd pushed the button on Decoria Moore so they wanted to take a swing at Henry because they think he's that kind of guy?
Maybe. I think, though, that one of the lessons, I think the staff continues to learn about high school football recruits, some lessons that, it's easy to be an assistant coach at Alabama and Saban's doing all of the real decision making and you're collecting talent. When Sark goes to Alabama and the cupboard is full and there's receivers everywhere and running backs everywhere and future number 1 overall picks at quarterback everywhere, you probably don't think a whole lot about like the methodology for how it gets there. I think there's lessons that are being learned about how you build teams in 2025 in college football that Texas is learning. And I think Sark was really transparent on Wednesday in talking about some of the complexities. And I thought he was really good with talking about the offensive line, where he's like, look, dead money. Like, when have we ever heard Sark even mention that out loud? But it is the kind of thing that you and I talk about all the time. And how do you cope with, you only have so much money to spend. You can only give so much to each position. How do you allocate funds? I think that they probably learned a lesson last year about 5 stars and national top 250 guys. And you can see it in this recruiting class. It is incredibly top heavy. And then I think on signing day, we saw them lose some of the middle pieces, the national 250 guys that
they feel like they can live with.
But you wouldn't have said that 4 years ago.
Exactly. Yesterday on the show, Brian Jones said, just a quick little side comment of, he lost a guy to North Carolina. And all I kept thinking was, yeah, but the 2 guys you got, you're taking that swap every time. Yeah. And I don't think Vodney Cleveland is going to be the difference between you almost made the playoff run and got a national title and you got a national title.
Well, and got to keep in mind the way the defensive tackles commitments went down. I think they thought, remember, James Johnson doesn't commit to Texas in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
So they lose Johnson and they're in it for no more 5-star guys that they evaluate on that level. So they're trying to clean up in the aggregate, right? We'll take 3 and one of those guys hits, we've done our job. And I know it's hard to look at that in terms of recruiting, but Texas will take 5 defensive tackles in the portal the last couple of years. They didn't all hit, but you don't need them to hit. You just need to protect yourselves against them all missing. And I think what ended up happening is when Johnson came back, and Jason and I have disagreed with this a little bit. The day that Johnson committed, I felt like they would probably lose 2 of those commitments. The moment that the NIL thing really kicked in and it became clear that they just they're not going to invest in money in guys that they don't know if they're going to play. Like, Vodney Cleveland might have been a good player for Texas in 2028.
Right.
And you can't pay that guy $300,000 to sit on your bench, because how many of those guys are you going to have? Right. You might have a couple. Sark might have a guy that goes, you know what? And maybe Jermaine Bishop is like this. He's 155 pounds, right? So it's who do we want to take that might need a couple of years? Well, Diabell's he's going to redshirt. So he's going to need a couple of years. You start going through it, and then I think they spent money in areas where they think guys are going to be able to play fairly quickly. And where they didn't fight for guys. Max Wright, we've talked about him. That's a guy that wasn't asking for half the national debt, but he was asking for something representative of kind of what all of the other schools were offering him. Yeah. And Texas, I think, looked at that and went, but we're not all the other schools. Those other schools don't have a $40 million roster, a $35 million roster, or whatever the number is that they've got to work on for retention. They don't have to go into the portal. And you know what I mean? Like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And I think that middle class recruit that is the top guy in a Baylor recruiting class is a guy that Texas is looking at and saying, not for us anymore.
Gotcha. All right, I got a question for you off of this Chris Henry thing. Chris Henry picks Ohio State today. If you're just jumping in with us, we will continue the discussion. If you want to throw us a super chat, obviously we'll get to it. Shout out to Specs. I'll show you a little Specs later. Right now, I'm going to show you some drinks as we start thanking our great sponsors around here, and that is the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. If you're looking for a place to get on out to this weekend, maybe for a little brunch, great meal, they have an awesome barbecue place right there on site. Ketch and I both had that barbecue a couple times, and I think it's safe to say we'd both go back for that barbecue. Plus, you get the cocktails, plus these martinis. Remember to bring those mason jars and or martini glasses back for your discounted refill. They might still have a cocktail or two they can make for you with that Deep Eddy Espresso Vodka until it runs out. But you make sure to tell them when it runs out, you want it to be the 10th flavor, because that is my dream. And I need it to be your dream too. Wednesdays through Sundays, get on out there. Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. Tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. All right, Catch. So it's kind of a timing question I have for you on this Chris Henry thing. Moving forward, in terms of Texas learning lessons, you're talking about where they want to spend money, where they don't. Do you also believe that for a guy like Chris Henry, okay, let's do the progress, right? There was DeCorian Moore. There was Chris Henry. There's going to be that next guy. Now, maybe Texas already has it. Maybe that's Easton Royal. But moving forward, receivers, skill guys, badasses, do you think Texas will make their NIL plans and make that NIL number known earlier? Because in the past, they've waited on that discussion, according to the reporting that you've had and the things you've heard. Do you think you're going to start hearing Texas is getting out front on these discussions?
Well, I think that happened this year.
Okay, you think that adjustment is being made?
Yeah, I mean, they don't get Derek Cooper without going to Derek Cooper in late June, early July, and doing the thing from an NIL financial positioning standpoint that was wildly different than the methods they used the year before, when they would have waited until November or December to do it with Derek Cooper just a year ago. I think one of the real signs of how much they adjusted on the fly in this year's class was how little restlessness there was with Derek Cooper, with Richard Wesley, with James Johnson, with Tyler Atkinson. The difference between a year ago and this year was that this summer they went to those guys and they gave them the big NIL pitch. And thus, from the moment Derek Cooper committed to Texas, nobody ever bested the Texas offer. And if you want to know how much Texas values Derek Cooper and what the expectations are for him going into the next season, that to me is the point. They went to such an extent in the summer to get that kid that every school in the country had 6 months, maybe not quite that long, 5 months to decide, okay, well, we know what the price is. Do we want to go to the mattresses for Derek Cooper? And a little bit like with Justice Terry, there are some situations this year, Derek Cooper among them, I think Tyler Atkinson among them, I think Richard Wesley among them, where Texas put a marker down and the rest of the country went, okay, cool. Texas has Derek Cooper. And they knew, and it was a thing that Texas was worried about last year. Remember when the sources I would talk to would talk about LSU.
Yeah.
They'd say, God, LSU is showing everybody their cards earlier, and all they're really doing is telling the competition
here's the number to beat.
Here's the number to beat.
Yeah.
I think what Texas successfully did in the summer was there were no half measures. So they didn't offer Derek Cooper. It doesn't seem like, this is my interpretation of what happened, not what I think is happening, but what actually happened. I think they gave Derek Cooper the deal in the summer, as opposed to here's a market value deal and wait till we come in November over the top. Right. There was no Sylvester Stallone hands on top. It just went down. By the way, who doesn't love a good 40-year-old arm wrestling movie reference? That's for the kids.
That's right.
There was this guy back in the day, Sylvester Stallone, and his movies sold so many movie tickets that he came up with a movie idea once about truck driving arm wrestlers who have orphan kids, and it's a love story for the ages. It's a father-son movie that even Field of Dreams blushes and gets a little misty-eyed over.
And in 2025, kids, I would tell you it's bizarrely watchable. Like it shouldn't be, but it will actually hold your attention. It'll show you how big a movie star he was at the time. I watched that movie in the last 2 years, and it completely held my attention.
I mean, it's a good sports movie. I don't know any of the characters.
It does.
And I'm invested in all of them.
There's very few movies that hit every target they're trying to hit. That movie does exactly what it's trying to do. You can argue about what it's trying to do, and you can say what you want about it, but that movie hits every target it shoots for.
Including just a random, did Terry Funk just get thrown through a glass window?
Oh my God. Oh my Lord.
Like, you have to understand that hit so hard 40 years ago. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Terry Funk Jr. just got thrown through a door.
Man, I never even thought about it, but yeah, that's the double feature. It's Over the Top and Roadhouse to watch Terry Funk just get beat on. To watch Terry in some good matches.
Terry Funk was a punk. The way he got dealt with in movies.
Terry Funk could play a villain. You just asked, you asked the wrestling world, they already knew that. The movie world found out too. All right, side.
So the other thing that happens in a chat that I think is really interesting, that it comes out 2 days before signing or after signing day, the SEC announces they've gone up to 105.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. What it means is that I updated the scholarship board today. Texas is sitting at 92 before anything happens. Before anybody goes to the NFL, before anybody transfers through the portal. They've got 13 to play with. I think that there's a chance that they could lose at least 20 through attrition. So your 92 becomes 72. Now, before everybody goes, what? Texas is going to add 30-something guys in the portal? No. But they could if they wanted to.
That's portal combat. That's like Lane Kiffin and Dion level portal combat right there.
What we know is that Texas has – I did the count earlier today. They've got 18 returning scheduled non-scholarship walk-on players. Among them, Brady Sarkeesian, a returning walk-on. Take the seniors out. Whoever's left, they've got 18. I think there's a really good chance that a large chunk of that 18 ends up being on the 105 next year. And eventually they'll honor most of those guys out, if not all of them. I mean, they could. The thing is, Chad, take 20 off the 92. That puts you at 72. That means you've got 33 to play with.
Mm-hmm.
You can honor all 18 of those guys, take 15 guys in the portal, and still have enough room to make everybody happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they were like, we need 20 guys from the portal, they could. And 13 of those 18 could be grandfathered in. I'm looking at, they've got 4 walk-on wide receivers. They have 11 wide receivers on the roster as things currently stand. So they've got 15 if you include I don't know that they need 15 wide receivers, and that's before they go into the portal. That could be a position where maybe not all 4 go. I don't know. Sark didn't really get into this. And I think you look at the way other schools handled it. I mean, Nebraska's infamous for their walk-on program. They basically eliminated it. They basically went up to 105 in scholarships because they were afraid Ohio State was going to go up to 105 or Michigan was going to go up to 105. And we're already having a hard enough time beating, Georgia by, or if you're Texas, if you think Georgia's going to 105, and they're going to have 20 dudes on their 105 more than you do, you're the peer pressure of the anxiety of what you think your competition is going to do will, I think, impact some of this. But I think the important thing is, I think Texas has more than enough numbers, more than enough, that I think they could almost honor all of those 18 kids if they want to and still have way more than enough room to do the things that even if they honored all 18 of those guys, if they lose 20, they've got room for 15 transfers. That's more than Texas has ever taken. So I think the numbers game they'll feel pretty good about. It will be interesting to see when they get into the portal and there are guys that they like, that they've passed over, that are still available on a very good, potentially completely free, or, you're not the reason why the guys are available is because they entered the portal and can't find people to give them NIL or revenue share or whatever. It will be interesting to see if Texas does what Ohio State and Michigan and Nebraska did last year, all the way until the very bitter end in the summer. Those schools were picking up players. It was like Michigan had landed the transfer running back from Alabama, who was awesome for most of the year, right?
Yeah, Haynes.
They get Justice Haynes, and you think, well, they went and got 2 NAIA Division 2 or 3 running back All-Americans, taking no chances. And you know what? If what used to be walk-ons are now replaced by guys that would be All-Americans at lower classification, we'll take some flyers, and if somebody hits, somebody hits. I think that, by the way, I just had source send me a message that was like, Chris Henry just leveraged the hell out of everybody, and I tip of the cap to Chris Henry.
Yeah, he
I'm not mad at that kid at all.
Use that Heartline situation to back off, freak some people out, and then freak the Buckeyes out a little bit. It's like, oh, no, we want you and Jeremiah to play together. And he's thinking the whole time, well, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'll make you pay me a little more to do it.
Oh, and look what that may do. It may prohibit Ohio State from getting too frisky in the wide receiver portal market. You know what I mean? Like at some point, even Ohio State, because I think Chris Henry's getting multiple millions per year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's at least a 2 spot is what you're saying. It's at least 2?
I think it's at least a 2 burger.
Damn. No wonder that family looks so happy on the Pat McAfee show.
I mean, there's talk that USC gave Mark Bowman 2.7 per year over 3 years.
Wow.
I don't know if those numbers are accurate, but that kid stayed committed for a reason.
Yeah. That's incredible.
And the other thing is schools now have an idea of what they have left.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wonder if you're Texas and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, Vodney Cleveland's gone and Corey Wells is gone. And we ended up not taking Max Wright, and we kind of talked ourselves into we're going to have to give – you know what I mean? It doesn't take very long, 2 or 3 players where suddenly you're like, we've got enough money to go get somebody who's really good if we wanted to. And I think I'm fascinated to see how they approach – Sark told us they're going to get offensive linemen. What does that mean?
Yeah, 6 times he told us. He just kept saying it over and over again.
You think he's heard in the offseason and during this season that they didn't get any offensive linemen in the portal?
Yeah, I think he's heard it. I think he knows. I think he realizes it. Yeah, and like you said, he mentioned the idea of dead money, and I mean, he really was walking through the whole thing.
It was like he was in my head.
Yeah, he was. I was like, man, he really is. He's listening to Catch closely, or he's channeling Catch.
Or somebody in that facility is using their brain, I think.
Because, yeah, when he mentioned linebacker, when he mentioned the possibility of running back and never mentioned wide receiver, that's one thing. He hammered on that offensive line deal. Like, they are going to do something. Otherwise, why would you do that? Why would you say it 4 or 5 times? All right, we've got some super chats that have come in. Let's grab this one real quick, Catch. Jason for 1999. Catch, with all the analytics you've done on recruiting, it's extremely disappointing to go from the number 1 class to a 10-ish class. Georgia, Ohio State, etc. don't have those types of drops in recruiting. Thoughts?
Jason, I think you're reading it wrong. You just are. The thing that matters the most is the number of super blue chips and elite level prospects that you sign. USC ends up with the number 1 ranked recruiting class because they signed a bunch of guys that Texas has decided. And I think it's important to note, USC and Texas aren't the same from a current roster buildup standpoint. USC's not on the level of Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and even Oregon. They have fallen back to the Oklahoma levels of talent on campus. So I think they had more money. I think they had less money committed look, you talk about Georgia. Do you know how many 5 stars Georgia signed this year? None.
Ooh.
0 5 stars. They signed 1 Rivals top 65 prospect. Texas signed 3 of the top 20 guys in the country. They're the only school in the country that did that. Like, let me say that again. Texas isn't the only school in the country that signed 3 5-star guys, but Texas is the only school in the country that signed 3 in the top 20. It is much. I think the thing that people have really lost sight on, Chad, because the team rankings still kind of look the way they always do.
Mm-hmm.
Texas and Georgia and USC and Notre Dame, right? And Notre Dame is another good example of a school who I think had some freedom from a revenue. Their roster, they've not recruited so well that they have to worry about, well, if we sign a top 50 kid, will he get on the field? At Notre Dame, the answer is still yes. Those schools went big in volume of total number of guys. But what I found fascinating about the 5 stars, and really even the 5 stars, because that's where, the money that Chris Henry got and the money that Jamie French got are not the same. They're not. But when you look at the numbers are more spread out evenly across the country than we've ever seen before, Chad. Vanderbilt took the number 1 quarterback in the country away from Georgia. What we've seen is that 10 years ago, 12 of the top 32 guys in the country, at least 12, more like 14 or 15, would have signed with Alabama and Georgia. Half of the 5 stars in America would have signed for either Kirby or Nick Saban. And then the rest of the country would split up whatever 16 guys remain. And that's how college football recruiting worked a decade ago. When you look at it now, no one had more than 5. I think Oregon led the country in 5 stars. They had 5. But I think only one of them was a top 20 guy nationally. So it wasn't like Oregon got the number 3, the number 5, the number 7. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a Fab 5 class. It is a different level. And again, whereas 10 years ago, Alabama and Georgia would have signed half the 5 stars in America. This year, Georgia signed none. I think Alabama signed 3. And I think maybe only one of Alabama's 3 was a national top 20 guy. The Chris Henry of his position in the class. I think Texas looks at Diabell, Richie Wesley, and Tyler Atkinson and says, those are the 3 guys that we think are the best at their position in the country. I think they look at Derek Cooper and think he's the number 2 running back. You have to remember they were going after Xavier Crowell. When that kid commits to Alabama, that's when they made the move over to Derek Cooper. So they wouldn't rank Cooper first. Otherwise, they'd have just been on Cooper first from the beginning. They went after Crowell. They liked their chances with Crowell. He commits to Bama. They go all in on Cooper because I think they felt like Crowell and Cooper were the only 2, which is funny because another guy has, the hitter kid that's going to Michigan, Savion Hitter. Like that's another guy that's joined the conversation. But I think Texas feels like they'll take their top 5 guys, their top 7 or 8 guys. I think they think they're better than any other school's top 7 or 8 guys in the country. Now, if you're saying who do we think are the top 20 guys in each class, I don't think Texas thinks they've got the best recruiting class in the country if you're taking it down to 20. But Jason, the thing that they've learned is that it's fake money. Those recruiting rankings, the class rankings are funny money. They realize they've been signing national championships, but the guys that are helping make that happen are never hitting the field. Guys like Vodney Cleveland, here's what happens. Out-of-state defensive tackle, national 200 guy, comes to Texas, can't get on the field as a freshman because he's not good enough, because if he were better than national 250, he'd be top 100, top 50. And those are the type of guys that can get on the field quickly. And it took Justice Terry some doing to do it, but by the end of the season, you could see that guy's doing it. But you know what? Texas had guys like Oh God, hold on. I'm going blind thinking about it. The other defensive, Myron Charles. That guy was essentially Rodney Cleveland a year ago. And what happens? Doesn't play in a game. Josiah Sharma. Remember how big of a deal he was? He didn't play in a game. Next season, it'll be his second season. Guess what he's got to do if he wants to get on the field? He's got to get in front of Alex January, Justice Terry, Murad Watson, potentially Hero Canoe. You start adding them up, and you can just ask yourself right now, we think Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma are going to have big second years based on what we've seen so far? Probably not. So then what happens? They're 2 years in. They haven't played a lick. Based on everything that we've seen in the last couple of years, what happens next? Transfer portal. So all this guy's done is sit on your bench, take your money, and then transfer in a couple of years. And I think the one thing, if there's a lesson that Texas has learned in the last 12 months is can't keep doing it with those guys. Now, Jason, it's not the way that everybody's doing it. I don't think it's the way that Alabama's doing it. I don't think it's the way that USC is doing it. I do think Georgia, though, is playing some pretty smart stuff. These are things that, like, lessons are being learned on the fly that may or may not be correct. And it's a hell of a thing to be in the moment and trying to analyze the moment before it's over. But that's what we're doing. We're acknowledging this is happening. This is why it's happened. Will it work? I don't know, man. I don't know what Texas is going to do in the portal. I mean, Sark, if he wanted to, they changed the 105 number, Chad, 2 days after signing day. We've already been talking about some of the guys that they were taking. They're only taking those guys if they're replacing the idea of a preferred walk-on. Some of these guys they're taking away from the Michigan States of the world. They're not really guys that Texas absolutely needed unless you're going to 105. If Sark wanted to, he could have taken 10 more guys from the high school ranks on Wednesday. They all could have been national 250 guys. Texas could have had a number 1 or a number 2 or a number 3 ranked recruiting class in the country if they wanted to. It would have been really simple. Hold on to Max Wright, get 9 more, keep Rodney Cleveland, keep those guys. But the way to keep those guys was going to be to pay them a couple of $1 million combined. And Texas was like, that can't keep happening. And that's where we are.
All right, let's grab a super chat here because some love is coming my way, believe it or not, from Jason. This is for Chad and the Whataburger support. Jason, it is not a problem. Also, Jason, I know you might have some contacts. Ain't nobody in the world digs the big orange W as much as these two dudes do. Catches on that Whataburger app more than my wife's on Facebook. So we need to get it done. We need to get a sponsorship with Whataburger.
Dude,
and OB Live. It needs to happen, Jason. It needs to happen.
I don't know that I've used a form of payment other than my phone at Whataburger in a couple of years.
There it is.
Because you're collecting the points and then you're adding the money. And it's just a one-stop shop of like.
Yeah. In fact, Ketch and I will agree for like maybe a whole show, we would wear the old school Whataburger hat. If we had a, sponsorship all set up, we might do it.
Yeah, but only if they pay me.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying with sponsorship set up, we might wear the old school hat for like
an hour. You wear the shirt for free. So
yeah,
really.
Shirt would wear for free for like a good 5 minutes. We'll wear the hats for you if that happens. Shout out to you, Jason. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank all of you for jumping in the chat. I see a couple other super chats, and we will get to those right after you hear a little bit from AV Consultations. Pay attention.
Hi, this is Tom McKay, owner of Audiovisual Consultations, and all of us at Audiovisual would like to wish you and your family a happy holiday season. This time of year can get a little hectic, so we want to remind you to relax, enjoy the season with your family and friends, and give us a call at 512-255-8678 for all of your home entertainment needs. This is my favorite time of the year. I love the holidays, the music, the decorations, the presents, the whole darn thing. So this year I'm asking all you listeners to help make this a special holiday for everyone. Smiles are contagious and free, so let's give them away like the government gives gives away your money. Let's high-five strangers on the street, hold the door for people behind us, tip your servers more than they've ever been tipped before. Give to a charity, or hell, give to a bunch of charities. If someone does a good job, tell them they did a good job. Pat someone on the butt. Sing in public places just because it feels good. And as always, hug your kids until they beg you to stop. Watch some games with your friends and make love to your wife or your husband. I know there's some women listening too. You can still give us a call at 512-255-8678 if you'd like to get some cool electronics, but more importantly, have a great holiday season and a friggin' awesome next year.
All right, let's get back to a super chat. How about this one, Catch from Jay, one of our best chatters, $5, says, YouTube did a year-end review of my 25 OB, was my most watched channel. I was top 2% of all, I'm going to respond to that number, top 2% of all OB viewers, and watched 609 OB videos. I sent you the pick, Catch. Wow. I mean, how about that?
Did you get your number 2, Chad?
Come on.
Did you see your year in review?
I have no idea how to access such things.
I think you have to do it on your phone.
Oh, is that right? Okay, I'll double check. I have not done it yet. Jay, I have not seen mine yet. Wow.
I was also in the top 2% of Orange Blood's viewers, but I don't think my numbers were as strong as Jay's.
Dude, that is nice. Jay, hey, you know what? We see your face a lot popping up on that chat, and glad to hear that you got the number, that you got a number to back it up. That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much for your support of Orange Bloods Live. We do appreciate you. There are a couple more to clean up here. Our guy Wes jumps in for 10. Buy or sell. Whataburger has deteriorated post-acquisition. Wes, sell. Stop it. Stop whatever you're trying to do right now. How dare you? How
I don't think so.
dare you?
I haven't noticed.
Sell.
I've seen those threads on Orange Bloods where it's like, I just think what happens is you can have a bad experience anywhere. Yeah. And so, like, if you pull over in Caldwell and go to the Whataburger in Caldwell, Waller. I'm picking small towns out of a hat, right? Everybody's going to have a Whataburger or Dairy Queen. But if you go there and you have a bad experience, sometimes, like, the Waller Whataburger cannot be like the central home of where you feed your Whataburger is either performing well or not. You can't take the worst of it and go, damn Chicagoans have ruined Whataburger. Well, I have not experienced that.
Yeah, no, I have not either. Wes, good to hear from you on the super chat. P. Miller with 5. Any portal O-linemen that we are looking at? Other needs Sark addressed in the presser with LSU, Florida, Arkansas, etc. opening up. What is realistically possible?
I don't think anybody that Texas is in will probably say their names out loud. Like, I think there are probably conversations that are taking place right now, and they're not with guys who've announced themselves going into the portal. And you couldn't have picked Murad Watson, Jack Injuries, and Emmett Mosley out of a lineup before they flipped to Texas.
That's why this next section of time is so important. I think with all this talent that's about Penn State. If Penn State if they're going to announce Campbell today, I guess is when that officially happens. Okay, 5 days from now, that group of guys. You think Penn State's got any offensive linemen people might be interested in if they want to move?
And they haven't signed any high school kids. So Penn State's about to be in a situation where Penn State is going to be an interesting guinea pig because they're literally going to be one of the first schools. I mean, I'm sure they'll sign some high school kids, but they didn't sign any, I don't believe. And, that would have been suicide prior to the portal and the ability to go acquire talent in that way. And did you hear the audio of the Penn State AD?
I did.
What'd you think of that?
The older I get, my first reaction is always the same. It staggers me that the AD of a school can't talk to a football team and nobody records it. Yeah. It staggers me. We have the fact that conversation can't just be private, that somebody's feelings can't just happen. That's wild to me. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, it's a dude blowing off steam.
Well, I thought what we heard was an AD who was trying to hang with the guys.
Yeah.
I think he talked like a guy that when he walked out of that meeting, he wanted those guys to think he kept it real.
Yeah.
And there were moments where he did. There were moments where it was like, damn, okay. I wouldn't necessarily want to be a wide receiver in this room right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there was a lot of honesty thrown, and then throwing out the idea that Michigan's cheating and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I always have that overarching thought about, man, there's just no secret anymore. Nobody gets to pull someone aside anymore and just have a conversation and get a feeling out. Somebody's got to record it.
I thought it was wildly open transparency with players.
Crazy.
That I'm kind of. There were some people who were like, I can't believe that a guy uses the F-bomb. And I was like, you know what he's doing? He is, and look, it's the thing that we all do, right? You get around younger people. You want to be able to hang. You want to show the cool kids that you're just not some old guy who's you know what I mean? It's like the idea of like you go into a room and the AD gets called sir by everybody. And you're like, oh, no, just call me Chris or Mr. Del Conte. But like,
right.
I'm not, don't call me sir. It makes me feel old. And they're like, yes, sir. And I think there's a little bit of that guy probably went into that meeting thinking, I'm still cool, man. Watch how I still listen to rap music.
Watch this.
And then it gets recorded. And I think he gets punished for, let me put it to you like this. I don't think for better or worse that Chris Del Conte met with his players and talked like that when the Eyes of Texas situation rolled around.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what this guy did was right because I don't know. Is that AD behavior? What I will say is, considering there was a coach, it's an unbelievable. FYI, my job line, like those things aren't happening. But I didn't dislike it as much as I did, but I thought it was a wild. He name drops Texas in there and tells him like Arch Manning got paid $5 million, and I know the guy that paid that. And he mentioned that he talked to one guy at Texas that's responsible for $22 million of. It was hard. Like, what is this guy doing?
Just to be clear, for those like me who apparently haven't heard the whole thing, I heard like less than a minute. How long is it?
It's like 30. Well, I don't know. Look, the video that I saw was 30 minutes, and it had a little bit of him talking, and then there were like little segments of explaining what it is that he said. Because if you're not a Penn State fan, you wouldn't know some of the names and references that he's making.
Yeah. I got you. Okay. Well,
at one point he brings up, he's talking about the rest of the country. And he's like, Texas Tech has like a $40 million roster. And he's like, they got a crazy fucking billionaire like throwing around money there. What are you going to do? Like, and that might've been a direct quote. I don't know. Like he dropped the F-bomb a lot. I was trying to channel my inner Penn State AD there. He gets around to Texas and he's like, I know a guy at Texas that got paid $5 million for Arch Manning, which I do not believe is true, by the way. But it was like, and that guy was like responsible for $22 million. And it was just like,
he's just throwing it all out there.
He's throwing stuff out there. And I don't think it's all true, but I think it's a little bit like stereotypes, right? Every once in a while, there's at least a flimsy piece of truth. It's like, oh, you know what? Like that person does like to sit out in the sun. I don't know. I just made something random up. I couldn't think of a stereotype that didn't sound racist. So I just went with like women like to get suntans.
That was weird. Yeah. I like that.
Well, my brain was like, what's an innocent enough like, and I was like, nope, not doing it today, Satan. You're not getting me on a Friday show. I'm going into the weekend not getting into trouble.
Good filtering. I really enjoyed that. I see the super chat that's there about the portal. We will get to that. Let me hit these two big sponsors you see each and every day up in the upper right-hand corner. First up, Texas Card House. They sponsor us every day at 12. We appreciate them so much doing that. And remember, online poker is available for you with Hijack Poker. Go to hijackpoker.com. Put that thing on any device you want. Scan the code and get to playing. And we remind you again, if you want to head out for the championship games or NFL or whatever, there is a great sports bar, sports lounge vibe there at that 183 and Anderson Mill location. TCH Social Austin. It's where we've been doing the game watching parties for Texas. Get on out there. Try the Bad Beat Bacon. Tell them you heard about it on OB Live. They will absolutely treat you well. Thanks to Texas Card House for everything they do. Also, thanks to Specs. They bring us the chat each and every day. We'll get to that next super chat after Specs shows you bottles and rhyme stuff.
In the wintry land of Specksville, neath the big Texas sky, spirits are lifted and glasses raised high. With whiskeys and wines and champagnes that pop, Specs is the place where the fun doesn't stop. From cocktails that sparkle to snacks that amaze, Specs brings the merry to all festive days. For thousands of ways to spread holiday cheer, come visit Specksville. The fun starts here.
I'm going to say it one more time, Catch. I think it's cool that somebody in a meeting decided that the Tito's bottle and the Crown bottle were going to do snow angels. And I just hope that person got credit. Full credit, right? Like if it was
that didn't get stolen by their superior.
You know what I mean? Right. Like if Debbie stood up in a meeting and said it, I just hope everybody walks around going, man, hey, Debbie, saw the Tito's bottle. It's a good call. Good call. It looked awesome. Like I hope.
I was watching this movie the other day, The Woman in Cabin 10. It's a bad Netflix movie.
Okay.
And Keira Knightley's in the movie, which is why I watched it.
Makes sense. Now I know.
And she writes like this incredible article, and she walks into the building, and like everybody inside her magazine is like, way to go, that was so good, you're such an inspiration. And I was like, that is not how it goes inside of a media office. It's not how it works in newspaper. It's not how it works in radio. It is not how it works in magazines. They do not have like the room waiting to applaud your excellent work. People don't talk to you. That's not how it works.
No, you're right. You're right. That is
so
not.
So the person at Specs is not getting the credit that they deserve because that's not how we work.
No, you're probably right. You're probably right. We can only dream, but thanks to Specs for their great sponsorship of the chat and super chats like this one. One more to clean off at this moment from Bandit. Love that one. Break it to the Bandit. $4.99. I don't think folks realize how much of an advantage we're going to have in the portal this year. Very much looking forward to next season. Bandit, it has to be that way. It has to. Catch, here's the dream for every Texas fan out there. Georgia makes a run in the playoff. Texas gets a badass portal, and when they ask Kirby Smart about it, it pisses him off.
Well, think about last year. They didn't, in part because they were playing at this point. They were really nervous about what kind of message would it send to the locker room to go after a tight end or any position, really, right? I mean, the only guy they really did it was with Emmanuel Pregnon at Oregon or USC, who goes to Oregon. They really didn't do it a lot with other guys that entered last December. They were really worried about this is going to screw up. Let me tell you what. Here's how you know it's a little bit of a different ball game. This time last year, Texas would not have done what they did with Chris Henry. You know why? Because they would have known that they've got conversations with Colin Simmons and Ryan Wingo and a number of guys in the next 30 days. They wouldn't have wanted to give Chris Henry so much money that those guys would show up and go, I don't know what you're offering me, but it better be at least what you're offering him.
Yeah, let's talk retention.
And so the fact that they took that kind of action that everybody in the program will know about. You don't think the receivers on the team know that? You don't think
of course they do.
Arch Manning didn't hear that Texas went big on Chris Henry? And they'll all know, like, there are implications, whether they get him or not, of what that means. Real quick, I wanted to circle back to the question that Jason made in the super chat, Chad. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you in alphabetical order the number of teams in America that signed 1 5-star this year.
Okay, 1 5-star.
Just one. Just one. Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
The number 30 overall tight end, Caden Prothro. So it wasn't like they had their cornbread taken. They had 2. Vanderbilt took him. Georgia, Houston, Maryland,
Wow.
Miami,
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, Texas A&M,
Mm-hmm.
USC, Vanderbilt, Washington.
Wow. Nice.
5 of those guys were top 10 national players. So Houston gets the number 4 overall guy in Keyshawn Henderson.
Wow.
Maryland gets the number 5 overall guy, Zion Elsey.
Go ahead, Terps.
Miami gets the number 2 overall guy in Jackson Cantwell, the offensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State ends up with Chris Henry Jr. He was their only guy, though.
Yeah,
He
that's
flipped.
wild.
Ohio State gets shut out this year on 5 stars.
That would have been shocking. It's shocking even at 1.
And then Vanderbilt goes number 3 overall with Jared Curtis.
Well done, Commodores.
So when I tell you that recruiting is different, it is different.
Yeah, that's
You know
crazy.
what Texas A&M did in recruiting in the class of 2021?
22 was the
Was
crazy.
22 the number 1 overall class?
Yeah.
Think about like how that went down.
Oh God, what was there? 6 of them? 5,
I
6, 8,
Eight.
7?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
whatever.
ridiculous.
It was silly.
This year, Oregon leads the country with 5 stars in the Rivals Industry Top 32. 5.
Mhm.
But nobody higher than 15th.
Okay.
Notre Dame had 4. Nobody higher than 17th.
Okay.
Alabama and Texas both have 3. Alabama goes number 18 overall, number 20 overall, and number 21 overall. Texas gets their 3, 8, 13, 19. So
they're the only one with 3 inside the top 20, as you pointed out earlier.
correct. And Alabama had 2 of the top 20, but none in the top 10. In fact, between Oregon, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Texas, only one of those schools signed a player ranked in the top 10. Again. Why? Because Maryland's got a shit ton of money, and they're like, how about we just go throw a bunch of it at Zion Elsey? Houston. What is Houston doing in this discussion? Well,
Right. Hey, they're in a power conference now, right?
they have $20 million that is being split up amongst all their programs. 13.5's got to be spent on football, at least.
Yeah.
They can go to a kid like Keyshawn Henderson and go, you know what? Instead of Texas or Georgia or Ohio State, what if we give you $5 million? And I just made that number up. I don't know what he's getting, but
Right.
the Vanderbilts and the Houstons and the Marylands of the world, this system that's been created is good for parity. Anyone that thinks that what's happening right now has made now maybe it's watered college football down a little bit, and that I don't know that we'll ever see teams again as good as the Alabama, Georgia teams from 5 years ago. It might be we will never see another college football team that good. But I think these playoffs are going to be competitive, Chad. And I think the talent distribution in the high school ranks is as even and spread out as I think we've ever seen it, because there's not a huge discrepancy with the elite of the elite of the elite guys. And for a long time, it's felt like 5 or 6 schools spread those guys out evenly. And everybody else just kind of shrugs and goes, okay, tell us when it's our turn to pick a player. Vanderbilt stole Jared Curtis from Georgia.
That's wild. That's never going to not be crazy. That is
How do you
never-
like Jason came in, right? And he was like, how am I supposed to deal with recruiting being the way that it's supposed to be? We're not looking at Georgia and Ohio State have to go through this. Dude, Georgia just lost their quarterback.
Yeah.
And to Vanderbilt, all you can do is shrug your shoulders. What could you can't even bother with like Vanderbilt? Why Vanderbilt? Do you know who we? Yeah, no, he knows. Trust me.
Yep.
Jared
knows.
Curtis knew who Vanderbilt was. His
Yep.
parents knew. His agent knew. They were not like, oh, never heard of Vanderbilt. Nashville sounds nice. Let's do it. They know. They know they know. But you know what? Good for Vanderbilt. Good for Houston. I am fascinated at the idea that the 2 best quarterbacks in the country
Right. are about to play there, are about to play in the mid to lower part of the Big 12 and that part of the SEC.
What does it mean? I have no idea. I have none. But you know what? If you're Vanderbilt and you're wrong or if you're Houston and you're wrong, well, I guess you're not going to the playoffs. I guess you're not winning the national championship. I guess you're not being talked about. But what if you get it right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it means.
And either way, you don't have to pay heavy retention money while you're doing it because you're those teams. Right? Yeah. You're Houston and Vandy versus if a big-time team tried the same thing and got the guy, they'd also have to retain everybody else and pay a ton of people. It's crazy. Catch one more bill to pay, and then if you wanted to buy or sell, we can. Let me show the people the Ice House at Hayes City Store. If you're looking for a place to go, I get that the weather's been, a little chilly, but that's what's perfect about Hayes City Store. See that middle picture? That's the Ice House. They've got the flaps they put down on the sides so the wind doesn't bother you. They've got heaters in there in case you need them to get you nice and toasty. It is such a great place to be. I've been out there when the temperature is right around where it is now, 40s, 50s, right where we are, and it is perfect. You know what else is perfect? That chicken fried steak on the right. The mac and cheese is incredible. And on the left, that's the queso that my girls can't go to Hayes City Store without getting. That is what my daughter will go all the way to Hayes City Store for. It is incredible. They're probably the best chips I've ever had at a restaurant. Go try it. Every little detail is covered. Drinks, the food, the atmosphere. You'll love it. FM 150 in Driftwood. Don't ever be in a hurry. When you're going out to Hayes City Store, you want to take your time. You're going to enjoy it. Be sure to tell them you heard about it right here on OB Live. Travis, Tamara, and the crew, big Longhorn fans and big supporters of ours. We do appreciate that. All right, Catch, are you ready to be done or you got a little buy or selling in you?
Well, now you put me on the spot. If I don't want to be a punk, so we'll do buy or sell. I'll make the questions up as we go.
Well, you don't have to be a punk. I could give you 5 and we could just say bye-bye. I got 5 ready.
I will have my 5. You go first, and then I will go from there.
All right, fair enough. All right, these first couple go back to yesterday or back to earlier in the week and signing day. Buy or sell number 1, Dia Bell starts game 1 for Texas in 2027.
Buy. I think I don't mean that as an insult towards KJ Lacey. I just think Dia Bell is the superior player prospect. And if they thought, it's just they're not wasting their time. He's the guy. And it'll be disappointing. It'll be a bad, I think it's a bad thing if he doesn't. Now, or it means that KJ Lacey is a star. I think the thing that thing does, it allows Texas for the rest of the decade to go, well, Dia Bell is either going to be the guy, and he's a 5-star, so there's a 50-50 chance that he's a first-round draft pick, just by definition. Or KJ Lacey's so good that he beats out Dia Bell. That also can't be a terrible thing. So I think the thing that it did is a little bit like that defensive tackle conversation that we were having earlier. It's, do you have a backup plan? And I think Texas has a very high-level backup plan at quarterback. They'll let the next 12 to 18 months kind of decide everything. But I think it will be Dia Bell, and the worst case scenario, I suppose, would be either that he got hurt or that KJ Lacey was just so good that he was better than him, at which point, like I said, the real winner there is Texas having a good quarterback at its position.
All right, Catch. Now I want to see what you think of 2 of my favorites in the class. Buy or sell number 2, Jamarion Carlton and Cohen Brown will make an impact in 2026.
Sell.
Okay.
Do they play some? Maybe. But they both play at positions where I think there's a lot of returning talent coming back. And Jamarion Carlton, I think, is now a little bit of a tweener between a defensive tackle and a defensive end. So I think, as much as I think that guy's going to play on the NFL on Sundays, he might be a year away. He's weirdly in a Justice Terry. Now, look, that guy could show up, put on 25 pounds of mass in the next 6 months, and things look different. It's kind of the same with Cohen Brown. Like, at the end of the day, I love Cohen Brown. I am president of the Cohen Brown fan club, but unless things change, this is still a team that doesn't rotate its receivers a lot, that has their top 4 all scheduled to come back as things currently stand.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be tough for a freshman to get on the field knowing that they're still probably going to go into the portal. They still have all those freshmen. Can one of them get on the effing field? So, like, it's crowded at wide receiver.
If any freshman can do it, one from Waxahachie might be able to. We shall see. Catch, let's go college football. Buy or sell number 3. Texas Tech beats BYU. BYU's out. So is Miami. Buy or sell?
Sell.
Ooh.
I'm going to zig while everybody else is zagging. I don't even know that I truly believe that BYU is going to win that game, but something weird is happening tomorrow that we're not expecting. I keep saying that, and then it doesn't happen. So I'm going to be right one of these weekends. BYU, we talked about it. That game feels like the 2001 Big 12 championship game all over again. All over again.
Everyone has convinced themselves that BYU is garbage after what they saw in Lubbock. And that's the one that the biggest shock for me tomorrow is if Tech does it again. If Tech does it again by 22 or more.
Then watch out for Tech in the playoffs.
That's a watch out.
Be.
That'll be shock of all shocks to me. I think BYU makes it a fight. And if you made me pick it, I think they may win the game and take a spot.
We're exactly on the same page, Chad.
I would not be shocked at all. I think Miami's in deep trouble. Miami is out. And Notre Dame needs to prepare to be out.
I thought Tech was the more desperate team the first time they played. BYU didn't even look like they knew they showed up for a game.
That was a rough one.
BYU is going to be the more desperate team. Yeah. And their coach stayed. There's careful, Tech.
There's a couple reasons too. Careful on a lot of levels. It's another 11 a.m. kick, right? They're going to the spaceship. Jerry World will distract you in every way that it can. And all the fan base, and I'm not saying BYU fans don't travel, but the pressure of your fans are going to be in the house. They're going to show up black and red. They're going to do this like it's a parade route, like it's a coronation. What if they're not ready? What if that offense just that kind of
man, playing at Jerry World's not the same thing as playing at Lubbock when you've had those fans were in a frenzy. You cannot replicate that.
No, it's going to be totally different.
And if Tech shows up and beats them handedly, I will give them a lot of respect for doing it. I won't say the day before that I'm expecting it to be a close game. If Tech handles their business, I'm going to tell people right now, they win that game by 20 points, like just because they dominate BYU again. Yeah. Careful drawing them in the playoffs is what I would say.
They're going to get a bye probably. Like they'll definitely get a bye if they win like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's crazy. All right, Catch, couple of weird birthdays to hit. Buy or sell number 4, Johnny Manziel hits 33 tomorrow. If you could go back and make him a Longhorn, you'd do it in a second. Buy or sell?
Of course, buy.
Okay.
What are we talking about? He's one of the best players in the history of college football. Yeah, buy. For sure.
Happy birthday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have to live through the David Ash, Case McCoy posts Garrett Gilbert script. I can just – plus, I don't think Manziel's career at Texas had more experience with golden children than maybe A&M did. I think Johnny was just too big of a star and too small of a pond. And I think maybe 10 years later, it's a little bit different. I think it's hard to forget just 15 years ago. College Station feels big now. Whenever I drive into College Station, it just feels like an extension of Houston in a lot of ways. I don't feel like I'm driving in to a college town.
Right.
And I think if Johnny comes around 10 years later, I think Johnny probably has a slightly different experience than probably what he had in 2011. Fuck yeah. Give me John. Yes. What are we talking about? Yes. Johnny Manziel, if he could have, I would take him back on Texas right now. At worst, I get to cover the Johnny Manziel experience the way Billy did.
Yeah, right.
I mean, everything is the same, and he's just great, but completely on planet Mars, I'll take that too. It was a lot of fun to watch that kid play. You know, if we look back at the Johnny Manziel era at Texas as some weird anomaly, but it led to them playing in a national championship game or something like that, I think everybody would be okay.
Happy birthday to Johnny tomorrow. All right, Catch, we're going to play. You get to
those 2005 kids, Chad, got into some trouble. I remember Cedric Benson once had to sit out a game because he went and got himself his television. Like,
oh, yeah.
There's things that have happened where it's like, well, they're good at football, so we don't care. And it just goes.
All right, we're going to finish up, Catch, with you get to spend an entire weekend with a legendary birthday girl. The question is, which one are you going to spend the weekend with? Here we go. Buy or sell number 5, Daryl Hannah and Julianne Moore. Both hit 65 this week. They have the exact same birthday. If you could spend an entire weekend with one of them and they plan every detail, you're hanging with Hannah. Buy or sell?
I mean, it's a buy. I was trying to I was like, okay, Daryl Hannah's a high bar. I wonder, because I was 8 when Splash came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've had a Daryl Hannah thing and then she's in Roxanne. Like there was a stretch in the 80s where Daryl Hannah was just kind of it.
See, but to me, the interesting part of this experiment is, to me, you'd have to think about, I would do some research on the person now.
I'm trying to
right?
I don't know Daryl Hannah well enough to punish her because I think Julianne Moore might be cool.
Because both of these women could be sinfully boring at 65. They may never go outside.
Well, is this in their prime I'm taking them, or I'm taking them now at 65?
Oh, no, it's now. This is now.
Well, then hold on.
This is an entire weekend with a legendary actress that has all the stories and all the experience and all the stuff, but she's planning all of it. It's like, hey, I'm going to hang with you for the weekend, and she tells you everything. It could just be I'm going to hit a farm.
I'm just doing some homework for a
right.
second.
No, I got you. But they could tell you, we're going to hit a farmer's market, and we're going to stream Landman. Or it could be like, well, actually, we're going to Rome this weekend on the jet, and, it could turn into one of those weekends.
First of all, I think Daryl Hannah has had some work done.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean on her face.
Mm.
I don't remember in Roxanne Daryl Hannah being.
I think your eyes are telling us without you having to say it out loud. Your eyes just told us. We all understand where you're going.
I didn't know that about. In the last, I don't know how many years since I stopped paying attention, Daryl Hannah, I think she's made some changes.
Okay.
I'm going Julianne Moore at 65.
He's going Julianne Moore. He's selling. He's going with Julianne Moore. Get some cool stories about Big Lebowski and some of the other great projects that
Boogie Nights.
Well, Boogie Nights. Hey, Boogie Nights. I mean, come on. Just that. Just talking to her about working with Burt Reynolds and the Mark Wahlberg stuff. I mean, come on. Yeah, that would be fun.
Julianne Moore looks a little bit more natural, is what I would say.
Happy birthday to those two legends earlier.
I feel bad that you've just made me say that about Daryl Hannah. I blame you.
Well, hey, you know what? I'll take blame. If it needs to be, I'll take some blame. P. Miller, I see the super chat. Catch, you want to give me some buy or sell?
Buy or sell, number 1, Georgia finally beats Alabama and Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, that's a buy. I think Kirby will rectify the problem that, for some reason came to him and in the earlier game. He'll take 3 points when he can. He'll preserve the football game. I trust him to run the ball more. Bama not running the ball is why I would pick Georgia. Buy or sell
number 2, the Heisman Trophy winner will be determined by which quarterback gets a W in the Big Ten championship game.
I'm going to buy that. I kind of like the idea of it as well. Not that I necessarily care if either one of those guys wins the Heisman. I just like the idea that there's something this weekend that'll make a Heisman voter go, yeah, that's my guy. I like that.
Be the most by default Heisman vote of all time.
Yeah, it kind of is because, it would be so old school if you kind of lean towards Love at Notre Dame, but I don't think he's had, he hasn't had enough of those Heisman-y kind of moments. And I
think Genty, if Ashton Genty had the season at Boise State, year that he had 2 years ago, I think he actually would have had
I would love
really good chance.
I would love to see Pavia get some love and get some votes, but I do think it comes down to those two guys in the Big Ten game. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Buy or sell number 3. You think Ohio State beats Indiana by 3 touchdowns? I was trying to figure out how much you like Indiana.
I'm going to sell it and say it's like It's 14-17, somewhere in there. I want to be wrong. I'm rooting for Indiana, but I'm going to say it's Ohio State by like 2 touchdowns-ish.
Buy or sell number 4. The Cowboys gave up 44 last night on the road at Detroit. And Detroit. I don't know what I just said. Detroit? I don't know. I made a new word up. Buy or sell. Didn't even blink. Didn't even bother you. You've been to the circus before. You've seen all the strings. Cowboy's going to cowboy.
Yeah, bye. You know what the shock was for me last night, Catch? My wife does a pick'em contest with this group of people. Everyone else in the pick'em contest took the Cowboys. And I was like, wait a second, hold on, stop. And they pick against the line. I said, honey, what was the number? And she said, 3. And I said, 3? Detroit at home? The Cowboys won some games and actually gave us hope. It is the perfect pitfall Cowboys lose game maybe that I've ever seen. And she was the only one that took Detroit. And I was like, well, honey,
wow.
Yeah, she was the only one in her pick'em contest that took the Lions. And I thought that is the easiest pick of the week. That is the easiest pick. I was not shocked. And, just watching that defense give up so much. Catch, it is a hard business in the NFL when they turn to you and they say, Dak, go get us 45 and we'll win the game. That's a tough way to do business, man. Turn into Marino and Montana and Elway and Mahomes, all of them. Hey, just go get us 45. What are you complaining about? Just go get us 6 touchdowns and a field goal. That's all we need. Like, okay, great. Yeah, as I've learned to do with the Cowboys, Catch, blood pressure does not change during Cowboys games. I can keep it under control now.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. News came out today out of Arizona that Kyler Murray is going to miss the rest of the season with the Cardinals. Buy or sell. Kyler Murray's not as good of an NFL player as you thought he was going to be.
Probably a buy. Yeah, it's probably a buy. I thought he'd be better. There's, at times there's been kind of just this durability stuff. But I also thought he would be better overall. So yeah, it's been a little bit under where I thought he would end up. More inconsistent.
It's kind of crazy to think about how long this was his 7th NFL season.
That is crazy to think about. Yeah. I thought it would be. What about you? Would you agree with that, or has he been exactly what you thought he would be?
I'm trying to remember what exactly I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, because I never thought he was going to be elite top of the league. I didn't think that. But I thought he was going to be like a solid starter, and I'm not sure who to compare him to.
I think he may be better than I thought he was. I'm looking at his career numbers. He's a 92.2 career pass efficiency guy. That's good. That's not terrible. He's never had a season below 87. He's better than I thought. I've been waiting for the moment in his career where being 5'10" and unorthodox would be a disaster for him. And it's never completely happened. Although I think Arizona might say, considering he was the first pick of the draft, that he's not lived up to first pick of the draft. But I always looked at, I never like you expected that he'd be a top 5, top 10 quarterback in the league.
Yeah. I never thought it was going to go to that level. Real quick, Catch, somebody asked about Bama, Georgia. I said, I'm picking Georgia. Do you agree?
Yes.
Or do you like,
I'm taking Georgia. I think they have the competitive advantage in this game that Alabama doesn't. This game, I think they'll win. But I also think Georgia's the best team in the country right now.
Yeah, I think when they click, you might be right. That Georgia, if we get Georgia, Ohio State, good grief, that's going to be a wild game. P. Miller, $5. Does Tech get bit in player retention this year? Tired of hearing their loud fan base when they play nobody. Have you seen their 26 schedule? Tech and retention?
I've not looked at 2026 Tech schedule because I don't care, if I'm just being completely transparent. But that's not really – I can't say that I've looked at a lot of schools' 2026 schedule, P. Miller. So –
right. I peeked ahead for some non-conference for the discussion about Texas and Ohio State and stuff. But other than that, I haven't looked through everybody's schedule.
So I don't know. A lot of what Tech did in the portal, they took a bunch of older guys. They spent a boatload on David Bailey. He's gone. So
not a lot of heavy retention for them?
Correct.
Okay.
Now there will be more retention than they've ever had in the past, but they lose a lot from, I think, the money that they invested. But yeah, like life changes for them a little bit moving forward. It won't be as easy as, well, we just have 20 million we can spend. They will have to spend to keep some of their guys. They'll find out. I don't think it's ever been tricky for Tech yet. It does get tricky, though. You do eventually get to a point where managing these question marks that the Texases and the Ohio States and the Georgias have to ask themselves. I wonder about Oregon. Like, I wonder now, Oregon, I think, will boost itself up to the Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State tier of talent. Mm-hmm. Can they keep going up? Like, I feel like they have to be maxing out at some point. Or Phil just does have limitless money, and that's what it looks like. But they've never looked like a program that has limitless money, but they're not far away from it now. I think will have one of the most – they already had a top 5 most expensive roster in college football. It might be top 3 next year when you look at what they just did in recruiting.
Based on this Tech chat catch, here's the one piece of good news I can give some team. I don't even know which team gets this good news, but for like a 10 or 11 seed, the best news of this playoff might be that you don't have to go to Lubbock on December 19th or 20th. Can you imagine? Nobody knows what that's like, Catch. Nobody does, except a couple, maybe – there's not even high school teams could tell us, right? Their playoffs are done by that point. December 20th. Imagine the night game or Friday night, a night game in Lubbock in December. What the hell is that like?
Well, the average low is below freezing.
And the wind.
That's the thing.
God. The wind in Lubbock in December 20th. That would be ludicrous.
There's a chance that you're getting light snow and the wind's probably going to be crazy.
If we had a 16-team playoff and they just did it legit off the rankings, Texas might go to Lubbock for the 14-3 game. Can you imagine what that would be like? Just what everything that would entail? Texas at Lubbock, but on December the 19th or 20th in a winter windy wonderland out in West Texas. That's crazy. That's just nuts. So good news that Tech's actually good enough to maybe get a bye because somebody doesn't have to go out there. What a crazy time that would be. All right, Catch. Anything else today?
Nope, I'm good.
Thank y'all for liking, subscribing, getting your notifications. We're up over 193,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Shout out to Jason and his Whataburger reference. Get us, we got to get that Whataburger sponsorship figured out. And go to the QR code in the upper left. Get signed up for orangebloods.com today. The very latest on all the recruiting stuff. Is Texas in on maybe a couple guys that you're not thinking about? The recap of National Signing Day, all the stuff. And the War Room came out last night because, Thursday night, every Thursday night is the War Room. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the games. And we'll be back on Monday with a show at noon and all the other content as well. Y'all be careful. This is Orange Blood.